Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Human Being User Manual Facebook group and to our weekly lessons from your Soul Reveal reading. I'm hoping I don't have to introduce myself because you are in this group because we have already had a session together. But my name is Tracy. I am a spiritual Zenagogue. A Zenagogue is someone who is a tour guide and a translator. And my purpose on this shamanic path is to be your tour guide of the human experience and the translator of your human being user manual. Hi, Joe. Welcome. I'm looking forward to sharing some really powerful and empowering information with you guys tonight. So we'll just take a few minutes and let everyone get settled. Hi, Mona. Ideally, you're going to have a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to have some water. It's always important to be hydrated. Hi, Daniela. We are always going to be in a state of energy medicine whenever you're with me. My purpose on this planet is to activate the light codes and the keys of your innate biofield. And so anytime, whether we're live in person, we're live online, or you're watching a video, my intention is to use energy medicine. Specifically, I use Hanshaze Shonen, a technique of Usui Teite Reiki. And in that, I create a space and time where anytime you see or hear me, your light codes and keys are being activated. All you have to do is give permission to receive. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is building a script or a way in which you can work with your map. Whether you have the first part of your human being user manual, which is from the Soul Reveal reading, it includes your 3 divine assignment pieces and your 3 fear stories or generational trauma. Or if you have your entire human being user manual, you know what your power and your trigger is. You know that your power expresses as your love stories and your trigger expresses as your fear stories. Whatever it is that you have today, you are going to be able to use the tools that I'm going to teach you. What I want to be able to show you is practical everyday experiences that you can use your map to guide you into a higher frequency and vibration, into a space where you're perceiving from your highest good, but also into a state of what I like to call mostly awesome most of the time. And so let's start there. Let me share with you why I call a state of happiness mostly awesome most of the time. Let's start with the idea that happiness is what all human beings are seeking, whether we're aware of it or not. When we are in a state of happiness, there is no longing. When we are not in a state of happiness, there is longing. However, we also live in this timeline that requires a natural law of polarity to be in effect. We can go to any of the Hermetic principles and find that balance. The law of correspondence says there's a cause and effect. The law of polarity says a negative will create a positive will create a negative. The law of rhythm says that everything ebbs and flows. And so this too is true of our experiences. If we were always happy, we would have no purpose on this planet. If we were always not happy, we would be in a state of chaos, which many of us are existing now. What we are looking for is not happiness all the time. And I know that when you're not there, that sounds like it's a pretty great place to be. But it's a great place to visit. We chose human being because we're here to learn, to share, to heal, and to grow. And in a state of happiness, we would not be motivated to do that. So I call this state mostly awesome most of the time. It gives us a scale of conscious awareness. At the lowest end of the scale, we are in chaos. At the highest end of the scale, we are in harmony. And this plays out that natural balancing of the Hermetic laws. We want to be right in the middle. In my workout program called Metabolic Renewal, Dr. Jade Teta always shares the Goldilocks principle. You don't want too much or too little, just enough. You don't want to go too fast or too slow, just to be in a movement that's comfortable. And that's what I'd like to teach you today about using your map, seeking that state of happiness, shifting your awareness to mostly awesome most of the time. The second reason I created Mostly Awesome most of the time is because beyond Soul Reveal Reading and the Human Being User Manual is another landing place, which is called Earth School. And in Earth School, we have 12 experiences that we're here to master. 12 life lessons, if you could imagine. When we are in alignment with all 12 of those lessons, we are in a state of happiness. However, again, the natural laws suggest that we need to ebb and flow. And so sometimes we aren't going to be in alignment with certain areas. For example, the 12 areas start first with the self pillar: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and character. These are all the ways that these are all the ways that you are 100% responsible for your own state of happiness. There is no other influence in those matters. The second pillar is influential others. This is literally influenced by others. Intimate love relationship, parent-child relationships, and social infrastructure. And the third pillar is life. When you're in alignment with self and you're in alignment with others, life becomes easy. This includes your career, your finances, your quality of life, and your vision for the future. These are all strictly human lessons. Why am I sharing this when I'm trying to teach you a script of how to use your map? Because Mostly Awesome most of the time can be literally measured by this scale of 12. If you can go through each of the lessons and say whether you are feeling good in those 12 areas and you are good in 10 but 2 need work, then you're actually really awesome. If you need to work on 4 of them, you're still mostly awesome. If you have to work on 5 of them, you're still in a really great place. You are mostly in alignment in the other areas of your life. And so as human beings, when one thing doesn't seem to be going our way, we tend to create a story in our mind that starts to infect our heart that says, I'm not okay. I'm not happy. This isn't good. And that poison or that toxicity begins to spread out amongst all of the other areas of life. And so if there is one thing that I can teach you, it's to ground yourself in your truth, in the truth of being mostly awesome most of the time. When a couple things are out of alignment, that's just simply your work as a human being. It's why you chose this timeline that operates under the Hermetic principles. Again, that we are always going to ebb and flow, that there is a cause and an effect, that there is a positive and a negative polarity at play in every given moment. So this is the tool. This is the hack. is this question: where am I at right now? When I ask you where you're at, I'm asking you to check in physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. These are the four main pillars of self. When you know where you're at, you're going to be able to create for yourself the answer, the tool called mostly awesome most of the time. So if any given moment you are periodically checking in on yourself during the day, and you ask yourself, am I mostly awesome right now? And your answer is no, to whatever varying degree, 0 being absolute chaos, 5 being comfortably balanced, and 10 being absolute. I did that wrong. I apologize. Let me shift that. 0 is absolute harmony. You have 0 chaos. 5 is that balanced, manageable, and comfortable space in the middle. 10 is complete chaos. Depending on where you're at on this scale of harmony to chaos is going to indicate the pain points that you're going to experience, the varying degrees in which your fear stories are going to show up. At the lowest scale, when you're just moving out of harmony, it's going to be a very, very gentle indication of an annoyance of some sort. As you get farther and farther and farther into that chaos, it's going to become physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually painful. You are disconnecting from your truth. And so the tool or the hack is being able to know in any given moment the varying degree of which you're out of alignment. And as you get more conscious and more savvy of recognizing where you're at, you're going to also be consciously aware that small external blips don't trigger you. They don't affect you as much anymore because you're in tune with your internal process, what you think, how you feel, where you're at on all of those levels. So let's imagine that you're asking yourself, do I feel mostly awesome? And the answer is yes. You're simply going to give yourself gratitude. If you have your full human being user manual, you're going to recognize it. You're going to use your words to create a spell to continue manifesting that reality. So for me, when I check in, if I am mostly awesome and I get a yes, I give thanks for the abundance that is my life, because that's my power energy. And by acknowledging it and using its true name, I'm creating more of that energy. So one of the other laws of being human is like energy attracts like energy. So when I'm grateful for my abundance and I'm focused on my abundance, I'm going to have more abundance. If in that moment, for some reason, with or without my awareness, I don't feel mostly awesome, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing. And I want you to hear this because nothing is more important than your state of being. And so if you can pause for a moment and breathe, and you're able to align with which fear story it is that has your attention. We often hear of things like entities, attachments, and non-beneficial energies. I want you to imagine that when your fear stories activate, they start as a non-beneficial energy, but they become an attachment. You, without your awareness, literally get attached to the resonance of that fear story and start attracting more like that energy. If eventually you're not paying attention to your bioenergetic field and you're leaking out this poison, then you are going to be susceptible to entities. And this is the process. non-beneficial attachment to entity. And so our fear stories are the ways in which we can protect ourselves by being consciously aware. So if in this moment I don't feel mostly awesome, to whatever degree I've decided is not acceptable, that I have to take conscious action, I'm going to ask myself, okay, is what I'm experiencing right now my first fear story, my second fear story, or my third fear story? Even having the numbers is important, because when you are experiencing your first fear story, when it's expressing in your reality, it's an indication that you've already been triggered. You are already out of alignment with your divine assignment. So if you're out of alignment with your first divine assignment, then your first fear story is going to express not as a punishment, but a way in which to get your attention so that you step into conscious self-awareness and you realign with your truth. Now, in this moment, if you just have your soul reveal reading, you have your fear stories and your divine assignments, your truth at the moment is just recognizing, that is my first fear story, so I'm out of alignment with my first divine assignment. But if you have the remainder of your human being user manual, then you are able to go to the opposite of fear, which is love on the scale of polarity, and to partner those two energies. So for me, my first fear story is disillusionment. When I'm not in alignment with my masculine energy, I will step into a state of disillusionment where I'll create stories to justify my behavior. In that moment, the medicine or the healing for me is going to come from my love story. And that is balance. If I am not in balance, disillusionment is going to be the indicator that I'm out of alignment with my male energy. This is extremely simple for you to follow. If you have had your soul reveal reading, I send to you a document that has two columns. In one column, your first, your second, and your third divine assignment. In the opposite column, your first, second, and third fear story. So if you can remember exactly what your fear stories' names are, and you know what your divine assignment is in every given moment, no exception, you have a solution to every single challenge that's been presented to you. Now, if you have your whole human being user manual, you actually have the way to get to that solution with absolute ease and acceptance. So again, what we want to be aware of in any given moment is that we don't feel mostly awesome. And in that moment, we're going to ask which fear story is being activated. Once we know what fear story it is, we have the solution. Get back into alignment with the divine assignment. So if you're male energy, you want to get back into learning and sharing. If you're female energy, you want to get back into that cyclical process of learning, integrating, creating, and then sharing. That's your first divine assignment, male or female. Your second divine assignment is your true energy type or your true energy path. It's either masculine or feminine. So if you recognize that your second fear story has activated, you know right away you're out of alignment in your second fear story. Simply knowing what speed your thoughts, your feelings, and your experience is going at is going to change everything. If you're male energy, you need to be moving swiftly, your thoughts and your body. If you're feminine, did I say male? I meant masculine. If you're masculine energy, you need to be moving swiftly, your mind and your body, at a pace that's comfortable to you. If you're feminine energy, you need to be moving slower through your thoughts and your intuitive guidance. Masculine energy needs to think things through before they feel and experience. Feminine energy needs to feel things out before they think and experience. And so in any given moment, when that second fear story shows up, it's not a punishment. It's asking you to navigate your internal and your external world from your truth. In your third divine assignment, this is your navigation type, and we do have a challenge here. There is a navigation type called chameleon, and that tends to be what happens when we go out of alignment. We chameleon into who other people need us to be for the sake of survival, but also because we have programs inside of our cellular memory of habits and beliefs that we think or feel have been supporting us. This is exactly why I created Soul Healing Protocol, is so that we can deprogram the generational trauma, the habits and the beliefs that control and compel our behavior, so that it's very easy to understand how to read this map. And so here we are again, going back to the strategy that I'm trying to teach you here. In any given moment, multiple times during the day at the beginning while you're getting used to this, you want to check in with where you're at. Am I mostly awesome? If the answer is no, then you need to pause and find out which fear story is controlling and compelling you. The more often you check in and the better you get at recognizing instantly when you're not in alignment, the more likely it's only going to be one fear story that's activated. But the longer that you're out of alignment, the quicker you are going to be able to shift into two or all three of your fear stories. And for most people that do not know who they are or why they're here, they've been in their fear stories their whole life, and that's become extremely comfortable. So let's talk about some real life examples. When would you use this scale of awareness that I'm sharing with you right now? Well, let's talk about, let's talk about a fitness routine. Let's imagine that we're going into the summer and we're getting more consciously aware that our temple body has been neglected over the winter, and we want to shift the way that we treat this incredible vessel. If you are male energy, you're going to want to be doing something that's very task-oriented. So it's going to be a simple process that you have learned and you've created a routine around and you're comfortable doing it. Male energy is going to love the treadmill. It gives them the opportunity to multitask, to do multiple things at one time and get exercise. Female energy is going to love being outside. Now, this does not mean that if you're male energy, you don't love being outside. This is a very generalized example of what a fitness routine would look like. So for female energy, it would be something more complicated in which you're going to be able to process through your physical experiences. For female energy, yoga in a more athletic perspective, so what North Americans call yoga, would be a great workout for feminine energy, because you have to process through your entire experience. You are learning, processing, creating, and sharing. And the sharing is internalized, but it's very powerful. For masculine energy, whatever that workout is, you're probably going to do it faster, and its purpose is to shut off your mind and connect to your emotions. If you're feminine energy, you're going to do it slower. You're likely going to be stepping into your thoughts and giving your feelings a little bit of a break. If you are, let me think of something else besides the fitness routine. Let me use the example of the scale of awareness in a stop-start example. When we want to stop doing something, we need to replace that habit with something else. So we want to start something. Whenever we're looking at using our scale of awareness, I like to balance it based on self-love. And so everything for me is moving me closer to self-love, or how far away from self-love am I? So let's imagine that you want to stop, and I'm using this very graphic word on purpose. Let's imagine that you want to stop hating. You want to stop hating your job, your partner, your life. And you want to start activating tools of self-love. The first thing that you want to be able to do is figure out where that loathing is coming from. Anytime that you are externally putting that loathing on something, your job, your partner, your family, your life in general, that's a way of avoiding and ignoring the fact that you're blocked from self-love. The loathing is actually of your own self. And so when we are consciously aware that there is loathing, we want to look and find out where it is. Is it of self? Is it of others? Is it of life itself? Remember, in others, we have intimate love, parent, child, and social. And in life, we have career, finances, quality of life, and vision for the future. So in any given moment, let's say your job, you're going to work and you've created a story that you hate your job, or you hate someone there, or you hate what you have to do, or you hate that you have to get up in the morning. And I'm using that negative word to create that energy so that we can take it back. In this moment, that loathing is created in only one of three ways. Anytime that you don't feel awesome, the culprit is always and only going to be your fear stories. And so if you find out what it is that you're putting the blame on to the block to self-love, so for example, your job, I want you to be able to look at your fear stories to see what experience is being created. So let's pretend I didn't like my job. For me, it would be disillusionment, vengeance, or blame. Now, I'm going to imagine, because I know my whole human being user manual, that for me, if I'm not in a state of passion, I lose perspective and I go into vengeance. For me, vengeance is a fire, but it's a negative connotation. It burns things down. And so if I didn't like my job and I wasn't doing a good job, I would exist in a state of vengeance. For me, this is my second fear story, which means that I'm not in a state of passion for what I'm doing, which is my second love story. That has created the energy of vengeance because I'm not in alignment with my masculine energy. So when I'm going too slow, I'm stuck in the details. I'm not doing the things I'm passionate about. If I'm not teaching or treating or channeling or creating, then I start to slip out of alignment with my passion and fall into the fire of vengeance. In that moment, I can recognize that I'm not using my creative fire. I'm literally using it in a negative way. And so I shift back into my masculine energy. I start using my mind and my body to create. I take on some sort of action, adventure, or risk. And I move quickly through the past, the present, and the future. When masculine energy isn't in the present moment, they go too slow and they get stuck in the past. This is anger. It also appears as depression. When they go too slow and they get stuck into the future, this is worry or anxiety. Now, for feminine energy, slow and steady is how you do it. But if you project too far into the future, that's worry and anxiety. If you project too far back into the past, that's anger and depression. And so in any given moment, what we're doing is we're looking to find the ways in which our out of alignment is expressing. And so what's most important for you is to know exactly what your fear stories mean to you. Of course, in your container, I've given you a generalized definition that all navigation types would accept. It's more important that you know exactly what it means. So let me give you an example. Disillusionment is my first fear story. It is the ability to perceive everything from a state of perpetual disappointment. It's the ability to create a story, usually based in disappointment, justifying your own actions and behaviors. For me, I know disillusionment starts when I start getting in my head and pre-planning what scenes, situations, or scenarios are going to turn out like instead of being present in the moment. When I go into disillusionment, it's because I've gone into female energy. I am either learning for too long, I am processing for too long, I am creating for too long, or I'm sharing too much information. And so I understand disillusionment as a voice that I hear that starts telling me stories about myself or other people that I know is not true. And I have to say to you that for a long time, not knowing that I was a channel, it was really difficult to tell the difference between the voice of my negative self and the voices of those that I channel. But once I found out that disillusionment was my fear story, it was really quick that I was able to see when what I was telling myself was created by disappointment and not from my truth at all of being able to be in balance. Okay. If anyone has any questions, concerns, or ideas of ways in which you have a situation that you would like to use your fear story as the example, share with me your 3 divine assignment pieces, share with me your 3 fear stories, and give me a very, very brief example of what's out of alignment. Now, if you're catching this on the replay, or it's a lot of work to type that information in, please send me an email. And what I'll do over the next few weeks is put together real life examples of how you use this script, whether it's your soul reveal reading and divine assignments, which is the first part of your human being user manual, or if it's your entire human being user manual that includes power, trigger, and love stories. Nadia, you're saying, can you repeat that, please? What am I repeating? Oh, what information do I want? You know what? For anyone who is has been a practitioner of mine or is in one of my memberships, you don't need to send me your information unless you're typing it in right now because I don't have your file handy. But if we are in regular contact, I need your first name, last name, date of birth. I need your 3 fear stories and your 3 divine assignments. I could technically pull that information if you don't have it, and so don't feel like you can't ask the question. But what I'm suggesting is that if you have a real life situation that makes you feel like you are not mostly awesome, I want you to share with me what you think that is. Is it physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, character? Is it intimate love, parent-child, social infrastructure? Is it career, finances, quality of life, and vision for the future? And I will be able to give you, and I will share without using your name, I will be able to give you, I'm going to call it a practice or a protocol of exactly how to shift yourself out of that. Here's something that's really simple, guys. In any given moment that you don't feel mostly awesome, it's because you're out of alignment with your truth. You're not perceiving reality from a high frequency and vibration. And this is the purpose of doing your soul reveal reading and of having your full human being user manual, so that you have the tools that help you create and maintain a state of mostly awesome most of the time. And that's the work that we're here to do. Nadia is asking, how do you bring yourself back to truth and balance when you go into your fear story of disillusionment? Well, I'm going to answer that in terms of teaching. Okay, so how do you bring yourself back to truth and balance when you go into any of your fear stories? If you just have your soul reveal reading, you know what fear story it is. So 1, 2, or 3. That's going to tell you which divine assignment you're out of. And then over the next 3 days, and I'm saying 3 days on purpose, I'll explain that in a second. Over the next 3 days, you have to make conscious effort to get back into alignment in that divine assignment area. If you have your full human being user manual, it becomes so simple, because if you have a first fear story, you also have a first love story. So for me, when I'm in disillusionment, it means I'm not in balance. And so I can look at all of the ways that I'm not in balance in my own life. Now, when I'm in disillusionment, I know that I've been triggered by betrayal. So I can look for where I believe I've been betrayed, where I have betrayed someone else, or where I'm betraying myself. This also gives me a great deal of insight to process through, but it also allows me to shift back into my power, which is abundance. And so for me, maybe for the last 5 years, I've focused only on my trigger and my power. It's very rarely that I even go to my fear or love stories, or that I even need to look at my divine assignments, because I instantaneously know whether I'm in a state of betrayal, which is perceiving from disappointment, or if I'm in a state of abundance, which is perceiving from a knowing that everything is exactly as it should be, as radical self-acceptance. And so this is the exciting news. When you do this work, you must at the beginning remember your fear stories and your divine assignments, or your fear stories, your love stories, and your divine assignments. But eventually it gets easier and easier, that all you have to be is consciously aware that you've just been triggered by your trigger energy, and you want to shift into your power energy. And so I'm not sure, Nadia, if you're asking me about balance and disillusionment because they were my unique stories, but I want to shift it to how do you shift out of fear and into love? And for everyone, that's going to be conscious self-awareness. You need to be aware of what has taken you out of alignment, where you're out of alignment, and bring yourself back into your truth. In Reiki, this would be called grounded, open, connected. In For anyone who has done their human being user manual or their soul healing protocol, inside of your container is an energy medicine treatment. If you're not sure what's going on and you're in such a state of chaos that you can't process through this, you can simply go into your container and grab the energy medicine. There's an energy medicine called bioenergetic emotional trauma release. And there is an energy medicine called Ground Open Connect Protect. I call it GOCP. There's an 8-minute version and there's a 28-minute version. And so as you sit in these guided healing meditations, it aligns you back to your truth. And it makes it easier for you to see which divine assignment you're out of alignment with. All right. Are there any questions, any concerns, or ideas of using the information that you've received in your Soul Reveal reading or your Human Being User Manual as a literal solution to any challenge that ever arises for you? Okay, Nadia, perfect. Thank you for typing all that out. I know it's a big one. Give me a second here. Okay, so Nadia is, and I'm just going to write these down so I have them handy. Self-esteem is F1. F2 is sexual abuse energy, which means masculine, aggressive, and controlling energy dominates. And the third is envy. Okay, perfect. Let me just go up here. Okay. Okay, so you're feeling, I'm going to say, out of control in your external relationships. You are experiencing financial challenges. Okay, so I'm reading through that really quickly, and then I get to your third question, which I think is really important. Are you right to feel distrust, or is it just trauma? I don't want to say just trauma, but it's trauma. And because you have done your whole Human Being User Manual, Nadia, I want you to go back to your trigger energy. Everything that you're explaining there is the trigger energy. And everything you're saying that you want is your power energy. You are just creating a story around the two pieces. And so what I would like for you to do is take a look at your current boyfriend. And I want you to see him from the perspective of your trigger energy. And align those pieces to what's true and what's real. Real means you're actually experiencing it. True means that's happening. It can be seen from all different points of view and the same story be created. The second piece of it is to look at it from the perspective of your power energy. What happens when you look at him from that perspective is you will experience genuine feelings and you will be able to see your truth. You may, and this, I am not reading this. I am absolutely not reading this. But imagine you're in an abusive situation, and so your standard of care is here. You find someone else whose standard of care is here, but it isn't not abusive. You have to find what your standard of care for yourself is, and then that person needs to be able to meet you there without you controlling and compelling them, without you having to set unrealistic expectations, without you going into your fear stories. And so self-esteem is going to tell you that you're not in alignment, and if I'm not mistaken, with your female energy. And so you want to learn as much about this new potential mate. You want to process or integrate what you're learning about him means to you. And then you want to create a way that you can communicate with him that is nurturing to you. And then you want to be able to share your thoughts and feelings without using your trigger energy to control and to compel him. And this is a really important concept, everyone. Your trigger energy can be used against you, so you experience it from the outside world, but you also use it to control and compel other people. And so because you have those pieces, Nadia, I'm going to ask you to focus on that perspective of this new boyfriend from your love. Sorry, that's not true. From your power and from your trigger energy. Okay? And so this is a key component to how you're going to be able to use that information. And I want to go back to you saying, is it just trauma that makes you feel like you want to quit? It is, but it's not just. There is no limitation on it. It's about understanding that that trauma has an opposite. And so for you, let's pretend it's F1, your self-esteem. If you pop over to your L1, your love story 1, that's going to show you what your trauma is stealing from you in this particular moment. I want you to imagine that you're feeling really tired because you are physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, you've been at battle for over a year. And so in that, you're probably not being capable of aligning to your first divine assignment, because there is a lot of work in being female energy. Think of female energy as the seed carriers and male energy as the seed planters. It's so easy for male energy to learn and share, to learn and share, to learn and share. It's so much more work for female energy to have to learn and then to integrate and then to create and then to share. When you just learn and share, which is exactly what's happening when you can't trust someone or you get exhausted and you want to quit, you don't want to go through the full process. And so absolutely, I agree with you. You don't want to use humiliation in being a tool to control your new relationship. Nadia, maybe reach out to me. You've just overdone it. You are out of alignment, especially in your first fear story. But that is there's a reason for it. It's 3 years of being in that out of alignment state. If you have additional questions, come on back to me. Natalie, you're feeling really tired. Okay, well, that makes sense too. You also have had a trying year. So let's talk about female masculine. For you, because physical trauma is your first fear story, physical trauma means that your body is used as the way to translate your external and your internal reality. So you hold on to physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual pain when you're not in alignment. At the lowest form of this dysfunction, physical trauma happens when accidents, injuries, and illnesses happen to you or those you love and you take it personally, or that your behavior attracts to you physical trauma. When you're angry, you stub your toe. When you're being inflexible, you twist your ankle. So as you go back to normal, I want you to imagine that you have to be careful, or not careful, cancel that. You have to be mindful of the stories that you're telling yourself, especially the limiting beliefs that have been created because of what you've been going through for the past year. You have overdone it and you need more rest because your stamina isn't the same as it was before. And so you're in that physical trauma energy. You're not learning and processing or integrating. You're not creating new ways of navigating and then sharing that information with others. You're literally learning a new way of navigating and then going out and trying to navigate it that way. Or worse, you're not accepting a new way of navigating, and you're going out and making that unacceptable version of where you should, must, or have to be right now, which is shame. And if I'm not mistaken, shame falls somewhere in your soul healing components altogether. And so what you want to be consciously aware of is listening to your body and processing the information that you receive, but also making sure that you're not going too slow. This is an important component that I'm saying specifically for you, Nat, but is ideal for everyone. This is important to remember about your second divine assignment. If you're masculine energy, you need to think things through. And then you have to feel it. That doesn't mean you get to just think things through. You have to think it so you can feel it in its entirety. If you're feminine energy, you need to feel it out so that you're able to think it through in its entirety. That in itself, not being able to do that, creates a lot of chameleoning behaviors. So if you're not moving swiftly enough, if you're taking too long for you, and you're stuck in that physical trauma, then you're actually out of alignment with both your first and your second fear stories. First and second divine assignment pieces. I hope that helps. Okay, and yeah, I hear you, Nat. It's a weird place to be restarting life, but here's the really cool thing. You have a blueprint. So you know exactly in those 12 earth lessons what the priority is, and you know exactly what the priority is not because you've done your human being user manual. But you also know your power and your trigger. And so maybe over the next 3 days, focus on seeing the world from both. Oh, I'm perceiving from my trigger. That's why I'm not in my power. I'm perceiving from my power. Okay, that was easier. The reason I keep saying 3 days is because in all mysticism, in all energy medicine, there is a process that needs to take place from spirit through mental, through emotional to physical, or from physical to emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so it's a space and time issue. It's many of us who want to say space and time doesn't exist. Sure, it doesn't. But we chose this timeline where that's how things work. We need to operate in that timeline. If you are really adept at being in the space between your power and your trigger, and it's a small space, then out of alignment is only going to happen for 3 hours. But when you're not consciously competent in aligning those two things immediately, it takes 3 days. So the first 24 hours, as you heal, it's going to be physical. The blocks to self-love need to release through burping, farting, sneezing, laughing, coughing, crying, yawning. But then the next 24 hours is when your thoughts and your feelings disentangle. So soul as your feelings align to emotion, and your thoughts as ego align to mental. And then finally, on the third day, the neural pathways of your brain reformat to a higher frequency and vibration. But this is also true of trauma. So in any given moment that you start to realize that you don't feel awesome and you're not at that space of very tightly understanding your power and your trigger, I want you to ask yourself, what happened 3 days ago? Because 3 days ago, the physical experience happened. It happened in the real world in real time. And then it entangled your thoughts and your feelings. And then it changed the neural pathways of your brain to a negative state. And so in any given moment, the sooner you recognize that you don't feel mostly awesome, the sooner you're able to pinpoint exactly what took you out of alignment. Okay. Any questions, concerns, or ideas before we wrap things up? Okay. I am so grateful that you guys were able to make the transition over to Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those of you that are on the replay, if you have any questions, concerns, or ideas, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Yeah, I need to do a different thing here. For some reason, I can't spell my own name. Okay. If you have any questions, concerns, or ideas, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My email is tracy@tracytrimble.ca. I will rack my brain for next week if no one comes to me with a specific situation that I can pre-organize, because I'd like to start giving you guys real life examples of how you can use these tools. As always, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I was offering energy medicine tonight. As we were talking, I was continuously moving energy. So give yourself a nice drink of water and give yourself permission to process. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.